Hey, this is Travis Glossop. I am a creative radio producer for Kiss FM, and you're listening to the Us People podcast with Savia Rocks.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Us People podcast. I'm your host, Savia Rocks, and today I'm humbled to have the lovely Travis here with me, who is a creative radio producer and also at, I should say, Drive Time Kiss FM UK. Thank you, Travis. Thank you so much for coming on the Us People podcast. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you for asking me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, you're more than welcome. I'm happy to have you. So, the first question I love to ask absolutely everybody who comes on the podcast is, Travis, could you tell me a little bit about yourself, but also what influenced you in your life to be the person who you are today?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm a creative radio producer, which I'm tacking that onto my title. I'll tell the boss I need that extra bucks. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm a radio producer. I've been making radio for over 6 years now, I think.
Yeah.
And it's been a long, interesting journey, starting in hospital radio and working my way up to Big Kiss FM. So I was doing hospital radio in Oldham.
That sounds cool.
I mean, it was. I really enjoyed it because it was. I got to play records for people visiting their family members and these people in hospital and they're poorly. And I got to go around and speak to all these amazing people and hear about their lives. And at the end of the day, all I was doing was pressing play on a song and having a bit of a silly chat in the middle. But this is like getting to chat to these amazing people and finding out about their lives. So yeah, that was sort of where I started. But I think what I'm probably most influenced by the reason I got into radio. Okay, so we're going to get deep early on.
I like this. I'm ready.
So I've never told this story publicly before, but my dad had a serious brain injury in 2013. So he had a brain hemorrhage, and he just one day just collapsed. He was working, and one day he was fine, and the next he collapsed. Now, to this day, he has 24-hour care. He has carers who look after him all day, but he was in a coma for 2 months. He was in and out of hospital for 2-3 years. And he has trouble with his, speaking. He has trouble walking. Well, he can't walk. And I realized that when he could no longer do what he wanted to do, he couldn't pursue any passions. He couldn't do all the sort of things that he loved doing, that I was like, well, I need to really pursue my passion and pursue my dream, because I've sort of got to do it for him, and I want to make him proud and stuff like that. So I don't think I'd be where I am today if weirdly, if that hadn't happened to my dad, because I was just sort of floating along in life. And then all of a sudden I was like, well, my dad, my hero, he can't live the life he wants. I'm going to have to do it for him. So genuinely, that's why I think I'm here chatting to you today. So
I love that. But how does your dad feel towards you now that he knows? Because I'm sure he knows what you're doing now. But how does he manage to show his affection to you, to say, you know what, son, I'm proud of you? Has he said anything to you about what you actually do now?
He is very proud of me. My dad is the biggest music fan you would ever meet. He's playing his records all day. He's always listening to the radio, and I remember he used to play the radio in the car everywhere. So he used to take me to school. He'd have songs on in the car. So music's always been such a big part of my life, and I sort of wanted to. I'm not musically talented. Number one, let me make that clear. I'm not musically talented. I can't sing. I can't play any instruments. So what's the next best thing?
Being on the radio as a player.
Yeah, he's talking in between songs and making other people talk between songs. So, he's very proud of me. And I've been able to do some really cool things for him. I brought him down to London, had him walk around studios, and I've been able to take him to gigs and stuff like that. So
that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
That's actually quite inspiring, and anyone listening to that knows that you should never give up. But we're going to get deep into that a little bit later. But I'm going to get deep into you more, Travis, with this question. When I ask you, define who you are as a person, but also who do you see when you look in the mirror? But also, what does your reflection say back to you? But on the flip side of that question, has there ever been a time in your life where you have looked in the mirror but didn't recognize the person staring back at you? How did you deal with it?
Wow, what a question. So in the because we're being open here, Savia, we're not mincing words here. So I'm a firm believer in being open and honest about your mental health journey and speaking about things that sort of make it normalized, talking about your mental health, because it hasn't been until this last few years. I go to therapy every week. And one of the things that I talk about in therapy is who I am and like, what am I? Do you know what I mean? Because I've put so much of my life for the last sort of 6, 7, 8 years into getting where I am today, that sometimes when I'm not in this studio, when I'm not on this mic, when I'm not sort of making radio, I'm like, well, who am I? What do I actually like to do? Because you're probably the same. Work can completely consume your life.
That's true.
It can do that. So I would say that I am a positive person. I'm a bit of a people pleaser.
Yeah, I used to be like that too. Yeah.
What changed? Is that a sort of mindset that you changed and now you're sort of free of that, would you say?
Do you know what it is, Travis? I realized that you can't please everyone. And no matter how much good you do for a person, if a person is not happy inside, they will never be happy with what you do. And I always say how I treat you is a reflection of myself, and how you treat me is a reflection of yourself. And then I took that through life. But what I realized is because I was always people pleasing, I wasn't pleasing the inner being of myself inside. And that was slowly destroying who I was as a positive person. And I don't know if it's going to make any sense me saying it to you this way, but there is only a certain amount you can do for other people. There will come a point, Travis, where you turn around and say to yourself, you know what? What about my happiness? What about my peace? What about me living the life that I want to live? And that's what I will pass on to you, because you deserve peace, happiness and positivity in your life as much as everybody else. And I just came to a point where I was like, stop. Do you. Yeah, and that's the best you can do. As long as you can do, you don't need to be rude to anybody, because I don't practice that at all. Because it's important to me to be kind. Kindness in the world is important. But that's what changed for me. I was doing so much for other people, I forgot who I was. And that can actually be quite soul destroying, even though on the outside you're all happy. But on the inside, when you're by yourself, and I always say you think the most at nighttime, when you're by yourself.
Or in the shower.
Exactly. Even so, even better.
That's where I have my best ideas. That's where I have my worst ideas. It's where I pick everything apart in the shower. So yeah, I feel that.
So that's why I decided to change. And it was a gradual thing, because it's building inner strength within yourself. But it took time. It wasn't a thing that, bang, I'm going to do it today and it's going to happen tomorrow. It was a thing where it happened over time, and with good people around you, you'll change. So that's my advice to you. And that's what happened to me.
I feel that. I think I'm getting to the stage in my life where I'm less sort of reliant on, I'm trying to make the most of, I'm doing things for me.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing things because I want other people
approval.
Because like you say, you can't, I'm not trying to do it for their approval, and you can't make everyone happy. So I think, I am a positive person. And I think most of all, I'd like to just sort of, I hope people think I'm just friendly and normal and down to earth. I think that's all you can really ask for. If people think I'm normal, then I'm doing a good job at hiding it.
Oh man. But the good thing is that you don't always have to hide it, you know, Travis. You can just be you. And you know what? The real people who love you will love you regardless.
Very true.
You know?
It's very true.
So that's definitely, I really like that question actually. That brought out a lot in us.
It really made me think. I really like it, yeah.
So let's talk about your journey from, I remember you said a little bit from you doing radio before to previously where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to get to know your journey a bit more. So could you break down how you got from your position? Because I know it's hard and I know it's hard work for you to get to where you are now. Where did you begin from? But also, who do you feel was one of the people in your life that gave you the chance to be where you are now?
So I was working in a supermarket up until I was working in a supermarket for 7 years, from the age of 16. Then for 7 years, I was 23 when I left. And during that time, I was listening to the radio all day. I sat in an office with no windows in a cash office in a supermarket. And I didn't speak to anybody. I was in this weird little locked in room, and all I had all day was the radio. I just listened to the radio all day while I worked. And it was just when Nick Grimshaw took over the Radio 1 breakfast show. Yes. And Grimmy is from the same town that I'm from.
Yeah.
And which I didn't know at the time, but after listening for a while, I was like, that accent seems really familiar. I think I know that twang. And so I looked it up, and he was from Oldham, just like me. And he was on what to me was the biggest radio station in the country, on the biggest show in the country. And there was honestly a moment of me thinking, well, if he can do it, why can't I do it?
Exactly.
And up to this point, I'd been kicked out of 2 colleges. I'd not completed my A levels. I'd not completed my A levels. I'd not finished finished college or anything like that. I had, like I said, I'd left college, and I was just working. So I was like, what? How do I get to that? Where do I go? So I went back to college, and I started looking at hospital radio stations in my local area. And I basically got started on this journey. I went back to college at 21, and I finished the course. I ended up going to university. But so the key thing here, so the person who put me on my way was that I met a tutor at college. And everybody else I was at college with at the time was like 16 years old, 17 years old. They just finished school, and all they wanted to do is mess about.
Yep.
They wanted to go for lunch. They wanted to go and mess about and have long breaks and all this sort of stuff. And they basically didn't know what they wanted to do. But I had an idea. I was like, well, I know I've got a goal in mind. So what do I need to do to get there? And I met one of my tutors there who said, look, I can tell you know what you want to do. Everyone else is sort of, I might do TV. I might do animation. I might do radio. I might do whatever. Whereas I was like, I want to do radio. I'm going to do radio. I will work in radio.
I like that.
You know that thing, how, have you heard the story about John Legend? He has like a whiteboard.
Yes.
So if you don't know, John Legend has this whiteboard, and he writes all his goals on there, and every single one of them he ticks off as he gets them. So I want to win an Emmy. I want to win a Tony. I want to win an Oscar. I want to win a this, that. I want to get married. I want to have kids. I want to, all these things he writes down and he manifests them. And I'd in my own way, I'd done that. I was like, I'm going to work in radio. I'm going to do it. You can't tell me I'm not going to do it. I don't know who you are. No one's actually saying I couldn't do it, but you know what I mean? I had that in my head. If you do come for me, don't matter. I'm still doing it.
I love that.
And my tutor said, "Oh, look, you seem to know what you want to do. I've got a contact at a local independent commercial radio station. Go in and I'll get you. You'll be able to shadow him for the weekend. Just learn as much as you can, and then we'll talk. So I turned up on that Saturday morning, about 7:30 in the morning, to this radio station. It's no longer around, but I turned up and I'd brought all this stuff. So I was like, I brought a load of stories and a load of ideas for like content that he could talk about. Yeah. And he was like, who's this kid? All I was supposed to be doing was sat there watching him press buttons. But I was like, well, how about you talk about this? And I was like, I'm not letting this chance go. Do you know what I mean?
I love that, yeah.
And so then I went back every single week, and he let me sort of shadow produce the show. And honestly, if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have then gone to uni and then got internship at Radio 1 and then gone through my career to Radio X and TalkSport and Magic and Absolute Radio and Kiss FM. Like, I wouldn't have gone on that journey if it wasn't for that one person going, do you know what? I can see that I can use that bit of influence that I've got to help you up. Because at the end of the day, you just need someone to give you that little leg up, and then the rest you can grab for yourself. But sometimes you just need that one person to show that little bit of belief in you. And John Eccles, shout out to John Eccles. He gave me that little leg up right at the start.
We're gonna have to send this to him, okay?
I think he still works at the college right to this day, so he'll have another little me. And
Most probably, yeah.
Listen to this, and then
that sounds good. See, this is what I mean about doing your dreams. No matter what goes in your way, you have to kick through. Which kind of leads me to my next question in a way, because as much as we go through life, people think that they only see the success part. They don't see the transition of what we go through day in and day out. But for you, Travis, was there ever a point in time where you wanted to give up? Was there ever a time where you said, no, I've had enough? What did you do to get yourself back into that mode to say, you know what, I'm going to do it? Because we know you had your whiteboard. We know you were ticking off everything as you were going on. But I know there were tough times too. And I want to know about those times too. What did you do to lift yourself up in those times?
Okay, so about 3 or 4 years ago, I was in my third year at university, second year of university, and I was also working at Nando's, and I was coming down to London. So I was at uni in Birmingham, and I was coming down to London to work for free at a radio station, a big, well-known radio station. I probably should have been being paid, so I'm not going to name them in this instant. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. I still love the people there, but hey, sometimes you just need to open your wallets.
Yeah,
do you
know? Do. True.
So what they did, they got to the point where they'd pay for my train. So I was living in Birmingham. So what I'd do is in the morning, I'd go to university. I'd have my 9 a.m. lecture. I'd then leave uni. I'd get on the train to London so that I could be in London for 1:30, 2 o'clock, something like that. I would work on the drive time show, as I mentioned, for free. I'd do that till 7 o'clock. I'd then run to Euston. I'd get on a train back to Birmingham, and I'd go and work in Nando's and do the last few hours. And in the evening, I was cleaning toilets at Nando's. I was cleaning the kitchen, washing pots, and then I'd go home after that. I'd be in bed at, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then the next day I'd get up and do it again.
Holy cow.
I was working on a national drive time show during the day, and then in the evening cleaning toilets at Nando's. And no disrespect to Nando's at all. They gave me they gave me a lot of flexibility with that job. When I was like, oh, I need to go to London to have this interview. I need to go to London to do this demo or whatever. And they gave me the time off, all respect to them. But it was a hard job. And in between doing everything else, and honestly, Xavier, I was ready to pack it in because I was so tired. I wasn't getting paid enough. I was falling behind on my studies. And yeah, I really felt like giving up. And then, so I did a full week of that, a full 2 weeks of that. And then right at the end, I was going back down to London on the Saturday, and we did a radio show, and I got a tweet off somebody.
Yeah.
And they tweeted me and they said, thank you so much for today's show. And listen, I'm only a very small part of this comedy show, working on it, but they said, thank you. I heard you laughing in the background. Aww. And it really cheered me up. And I was like, this is a random person, no one I've ever met. They're just a listener to the radio station, and they'd heard me laughing and they'd really enjoyed the show. And I think they were going through a pretty tough time, and that radio show on that day got them through that day. And I was like, well, this is why I'm doing it then.
Exactly. The small things make the big things happen. And that's
really does.
In people's lives too. And I always emphasize that to people. The small things make the big things happen. So that's such a cool story to tell. Let's get into why Kiss? Out of all of them, you've been from different stations, right? And you've jumped and jumped and jumped. What was it about Kiss that makes you want to be a producer at Kiss? I have a feeling you knew this question was coming somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
But what was it about Kiss that attracted you to what they do and how they do it, and also how it suited your personality?
So it's really interesting. I don't think anybody who I'd worked with at any of my other stations could have pictured me coming to Kiss, because Kiss is super cool. Kiss is very cool. Kiss is it's the cool. So the way we like to think of ourselves is that there are other radio stations who might play sort of similar music to us, but we're the sort of cool side. So you've got another station who they are the party, right? They've got canapes, they've got, I don't know, ice sculptures. We're on the outside holding our rave in the car park.
I'm with you guys then.
Exactly. So like Kiss to me, like I've always admired Kiss from afar. I actually, in 2015, I think it was, they used to run a thing called the Kiss Chosen One, where you would go to what's the shopping centre called? The big one in, like, is it
Westfield?
Westfield.
Yeah, one in Stratford, one in Shepherd's Bush.
Stratford, that's where it was. I've lived in London now for like 3 years, and I still don't know anywhere in London. I'm so bad at it. But yes, I went to Westfield. I did my audition to be a presenter. This is before I decided that clearly I'm not a presenter, I'm a producer. But yeah, so like I've always admired Kiss. But I always thought that the music was a bit too cool for me. I was a bit like, I don't know whether I connect with the music. But when I was coming for the job here, I said that to the people who were doing the interview. I said, look, there's going to be other people who interview for this job who the music suits them a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'm coming from like an indie rock station.
Yeah.
I've got long hair.
Nothing wrong with long hair.
I know, exactly. But it's sort of, I just felt a bit like, I don't know, I just didn't feel like I was cool enough.
But you are cool.
Well, I mean, and I don't know. Kiss just always felt super cool, and this is also a little bit of like my self-esteem poking through. You know what I mean? So I was a bit like, oh no, I can't work there. I'm not cool enough. But the job that I do is about the content. It's about the creativity. It's about making the most of my presenter's abilities and raising him to the next level.
Yeah.
Shout out to Tyler West. And it doesn't really matter, because music is music. Music's always going to be there. But like, that's not my job. My job isn't the music. I'm doing the bits in between and trying to make the music sound great next to all the little silly talky bits that we do. So yeah, I think Kiss is it's got such a great history, and especially where we are now today. We had a new boss take over a week before the pandemic started, so 18 months ago. And I cannot speak highly enough of Rebecca Frank, who runs KISS, not just because she pays me. Okay, let me make that clear. No, she's really changed the station for the better. It's such a good family atmosphere to work here, and everybody, we're a small team, but we're a tight team, and like, yeah, we back each other, and we're like, KISS has sort of changed in the last year, but nothing to where it's going. Like, we're on the up, and it's so great to be a part of that, like from the ground. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Rebecca, thank you for letting Travis on the show. I appreciate it. Big time.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you being a producer now, because we spoke about you being a presenter. And you saying that you wasn't cool enough and stuff. But could you break down a day in Travis's life from when you wake up in the morning to what it's like being a producer now? Just so all the listeners who might not understand get an understanding of what you actually really do.
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned this. So at the minute, KISS is running the KISS Summer School for Women in Programming. So we've got a lot of, we've got, I think, 20 young women who want to get into radio, and they've all got a mentor here at KISS. So there's people who work in the social team, there's people who work behind the scenes like me producing, people who work in marketing, on the video team, all these different areas. And I'm actually going through the process of sort of talking to people about what I do day to day. And my job is stupid.
Your job is stupid?
It's silly. It's not a real job. No, it is a real job. But there are some days, Savia, where I wake up and I have to find sound effects of Bigfoot. Okay? Today, I had to genuinely find a Bigfoot sound effect to play on the radio. That's not a normal day. People shouldn't have to do that. Do you know what else I did today, Savia? I'm
loving this.
I did an interview, well, not me, my presenter did an interview, but I prepped an interview with a world champion beatboxer. And for 20 minutes, we got to chat to a beatboxer while he made robot noises, while he did the alien from Alien sound effect. He was like, I can't do it, but it was like so throaty. It was very weird. Transformers. So that was one part of my day.
Oh, man.
That was before we even got to the show. So... life as a producer is sort of, no 2 days are the same, because there was a day last week where we're doing this new feature on the show called Tyler Tries. Yeah. So it's born out of the pandemic. So the thought being that for the last year and a half, everybody's been in their bedroom. No one's been able to experience anything new. And Tyler's made it his mission to try something completely new that he's never done before every week on the show, just to try something, just to spread that positivity of like, look, I'm trying this weird thing. Do you want to come and do it as well? Da, da, da. Do you know what I mean? So 2 weeks ago, I had a morning where I went to a yoga space in East London while Tyler got covered in puppies. He did puppy yoga.
Puppy yoga?
Yeah. So he did a full yoga class. He was taught how to do yoga while there's 6-week-old puppies running around.
Oh my gosh, that sounds epic.
Honestly, Savvy, I'll give you the hookup. It is amazing.
Please. Please.
Shout out to Pause for Thought. It was so amazing. And so I had to organize like elements of that shoot. So I had to sort of like make sure Tyler got there on time. And a lot of the other things were, which is the hardest part, if I'm honest, trying to get Tyler anywhere on time. And he will say, his reasoning he goes, I'm Jamaican, mate. And I'm like,
I'm Jamaican too, or half. But yeah, maybe it's the other half that gets me there on time.
I'm like, Tyler, I can't work with that, mate. You can't use that as an excuse every time. But yeah, so my job ranges from trying to get Tyler to a puppy yoga class to editing interviews with pop stars or beatboxers or whatever, to just sort of like to coming up with ideas and content for features, for all sorts of things. And yeah, I honestly believe I have the best job in the world. I love my job. I'm so lucky to do my job, and I honestly wouldn't change it. It's the best.
See, that's when you know you're on the right path.
Yeah.
That's when you know you're on the right path. So let's talk about, apart from that, here's a question for you. What is the one track, Travis, that is in your mind right now that you just can't get out? Because it just popped in my mind. But what's in your mind right now for the one track that's just not coming out your head? You just keep singing it.
Anderson .Paak, Bruno Mars, Leave the Door Open.
Oh, that's a good one, actually.
Honestly, that song, it's been out, maybe 3 months now, and there's not a day gone by that I've not gone, sip, sip. Sip, sip, in a robe, drip, drip. Honestly, it is brilliant. The whole song is brilliant.
Oh, man.
I'm so excited for that album. I just think like Anderson .Paak is amazing, and I've always thought Bruno Mars was a bit too poppy. I was like, I don't know if I'm into Bruno Mars, and then he came with the smoothest, most soulful vocals on that track, and I was like, okay, this Bruno Mars I can get down with. I can get down with Silk Sonic. So yeah, I'm really excited for that album, and that song I could listen to it on repeat.
So I'm going to break down one question. In this question, I'm only allowed to say it once, okay? I can't repeat it. Yeah?
This is tension. This is tense.
This is tension. So I'm going to say a number of words, and you're going to hear these words, and then I'm going to say the rest of it. See, which kind of leaves you hanging at the moment, right? So you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you have the words power, perception, culture, religion, judgment, creativity, class, privilege, diversity, race, and leadership. Which one stuck in your mind and which one do you want to talk about?
Oh, wow. Privilege.
Let's go. Okay.
Privilege. That stuck in my mind. So do you have a question about privilege, or do you want me to just say why it stuck in my mind?
I want you to be as open as you can of the reason why privilege stuck in your mind and what it means to you.
Do you know why I think it stuck in my mind? I think I've always considered myself to be an ally, whether it's to the Black community, whether it's to the LGBTQ plus community. I've always considered myself to not be sort of against anybody. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I always thought, well, I've come from a working class town up north that's sort of been, in terms of funding from the government, has sort of been left behind, and there's sort of buildings fallen down, and there's crime, there's poverty. And I always, when I was younger, before I was before I'd done my reading, before I was like as world sort of like, I've been around and talked to people as I have. Do you know what I mean? I was always like, I don't really understand like what is like white privilege specifically. And like, I was like, well, I've had hard times because I didn't have money growing up. And honestly, from now that I'm older and I've sort of seen the world and I've spoken to people, I've really learned about what white privilege is, and how no matter how I feel like I haven't come from that place, just by being born to two white parents, how that's given me a leg up that I never knew I had.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's so important for people like me who are in a position of some form of power to sort of use that in a good way. Like, I don't want to come across preachy here. Do you know what I mean?
No, I understand where you're coming from. Basically, you just want to use the power that you have and the positive nature that you have and the person who you have become to make another doorway for another person's life easier.
100%. Because, like, I Tyler, who I work on the show with, we had when everything went down last year with George Floyd, we had a very open and honest and frank conversation on the radio about Black Lives Matter, about everything that was going on. And I've been friends with Tyler for now nearly 2 years, and he told me some things that shocked me. His life as a black man, he said things like, I still get people, I get on the tube and I still get people who might move away from me, move a few seats down, not because of COVID or anything like that.
No, I understand where he's coming from. I still get ladies holding their bags when I go sit next to them.
That shocks me so much that that's still a thing in the world. And I honestly had become so ignorant to it, because I was like, well, all my friends, we're nice people.
Yeah.
We're a multicultural, diverse, like, I'm living in London. Like, we have this whole melting pot sort of life. Do you know what I mean? And I didn't realize it was still that big of like an issue for him in his daily life. And he said there's been incidents in my private life, in work, wherever, where he's come across racism and stuff like that. And because I'm white, I'd not even seen that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? That's white privilege. Like, not being able to see like the hardships that one of my best friends goes through. And so that, I think that's why it sticks in my head, because I'm so aware of it now. And I think I can only do what I can do, but doing something at least is good. So whether that's supporting Black-owned businesses, whether that's signing petitions about Black Lives Matter, whether that's like whatever that thing is, just to show that you are on people's side, because it's not enough to now be not a racist. You have to be anti-racist.
Yeah, I get you.
So yeah, I don't know. I just think, good question, by the way. I didn't realize I was going to speak like that, but yeah. What do you think about white privilege?
Okay, so I can break it down honestly and openly. I am a very calm, compassionate and very sincere person. I work 50 hours a week. You know, when you were telling me about what you do when you work and stuff, I work 50 hours a week, and I work in a very corporate environment. And today I call it character building day because it was very challenging. So I had 2 white men come in, and I have quite a soft voice, so I'm not very abrupt in how I come across. So I said, "Excuse me, sir, how may I help you?" The white guy shouted at me and said, "I can't hear you." But it was in such an aggressive attitude. Then I was working with a European lady next to me who's lovely. And then she noticed what happened, and she said, "I have never noticed racism like that before." And it could be in the small things like that, Travis, that has an impact on us. But he spoke to me like that because I was black. He never spoke to her like that. Because when she turned around and said the same thing and he couldn't hear her, he went, "Pardon, I couldn't hear you." I went, and because I was so upset with what just happened, but because I am a Buddhist and because I know about calmness, I stood up and walked away professionally. And she says, "Don't worry, I'll deal with it." And that's a small, tiny thing that has happened to me. It's right. I have people get up and walk away because they don't want to sit next to me. And because I am dark skinned, I am half Indian and half black. But the problem is with that is people only see the black. They don't necessarily see the Indian side until I say I'm Indian and explain where I come from. Yeah, and even with like Indian people sometimes, when I say, oh, my mother's Indian and my father's black, and they go, really? Because they can only, again, they can only see I'm dark skin. And when I was talking to my grandfather, he was explaining to me that within some of the Indian cultures, what they do is the lighter your skin, the further you go. And it hurt me to know that because I am dark skinned and I feel, this is just me, I feel like I'm still as beautiful as every other culture, every other person. And I feel like I bring beauty into the world just like everybody else. But I have to deal with that on a daily basis, like I'm sure many black people do. But there's racism not just to black people. And I don't want to make this just about black people because that's not true. There is racism in so many different cultures too. And we as people need to recognize that and stop denying that. And once we do, we'll be able to help each other. You know, and I think that's so important. So that's what it means to me. But I never give up hope. I never give up hope. I will kick down doors, climb through windows, hug a person I don't know. Travis, I will do it. Because if you don't give people love, people will become bitter, and hate is not what we're looking for. We are looking for love. Yeah, and love wins, not hate. So that's how my mind works every day.
Yeah. I mean, you just summed up perfectly about, like, I will never experience that. I will never experience somebody moving away because of the color of my skin. Do you know what I mean? They might move away because I forgot to shower that day. Do you know what I mean? But they're never for any legitimate reason. And yeah, and that's what I've learned. I'll never be able to. I can never walk in your shoes. But I can walk at the side of you and do my best to sort of amplify your voice, amplify any voice that needs it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I've got a small, but like I've got a platform of some description. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, using it in any way, because like you say, love has to win. Love has to win. Because otherwise, what's the point?
Love, I think love will always win regardless of what's going on in the world. When you have people like yourself, and you know what, I'm proud of you, Travis, because you're owning it. You're owning it and you're saying, you know what, and you're working with people and who have gone through these things, and you're talking to me who's been through it, and you're saying, you know what, how can I do something to help? And although you may turn around to me and say, Savia, it's small, it's not small. What you're doing is big. But you just don't realize it's big. You know, because you're helping other people become their best selves, and you're like their backbone to make people realize what's going on.
That's true, but I don't want to come across like I'm some sort of savior either.
No. I understand that totally.
From a very human point of view, not like I'm doing it because
You're coming from a perspective where, you know what, I understand it. I didn't realize it was that bad, you know, until I physically see it. But today I had to make my friend, who I call her my friend, I had to make her see it so she can understand it. And she's married to a black man. She has a son who police may see as a black boy, you know, and I was saying this to her, and she was like, you know what, I've been married 11 years and he always comes home and he always tells me these stories, and I'm like, just be calm about it. And he goes, how calm can I be? It's 40 years I've been calm. You know, so it's kind of like that. But you know what, Travis, thank you for talking about it. Thank you for picking that too.
Hey, I mean, I think, like you say, given this platform, might as well talk about some real stuff.
Yeah, for real.
Might as well get into it.
Yeah, for real. I totally understand that. So, if there was one question you wish that someone would ask you, but they rarely ever do, what would that question be and why?
This question? Can I say this question? Do you know what? What a question. What do I wish people would ask me? That's a real thinker. Do you know what I'm going to rephrase the question a little bit.
Cool.
I'm going to rephrase the question to what do I wish people would ask other people?
I like that.
So there's nothing particularly that I would say, oh, I wish I want to talk about this, because I can talk about anything that I want. But I am a firm believer in just asking your friend if they're okay. Okay. And that seems very simple. But there's something really powerful in asking them twice. Go, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. No, but are you actually okay?
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah.
Because there's been times in my life where people haven't asked the second time, and I've sort of skirted away from that conversation and gone, I don't have to face that, how I'm feeling in that moment. I might want to talk about it, but somebody did ask me twice, and it was like, no, come on, we can talk about it. Are you actually okay? And honestly, it changed my perspective on how I deal with people, how I speak to my friends. And I think that's really important. And amongst all the sort of like messages and stuff that we've talked about, I think that's one of the most important for me is like, if you've got a friend, you might not even know if they're going through stuff. It might not be a spoken about mental health issue as such. It may just be an everyday occurrence, but like just checking that extra one time, it could save them.
Yeah, I agree. And
I love the fact that you're on that same thing as well, because you said you do that.
Yeah.
It's a new thing for me, but like, how did you come about and get to asking that thing twice?
It was actually at work. So I see so many people coming every day. And again, because I work in the corporate environment, not necessarily me per se, because that's not, I promised myself I'd never work in a corporate environment, and then something happened where I had to. And so I saw these people coming in every day. They're making millions and whatever it might be. And I noticed something. They were all in their suits, Travis, but none of them looked happy. And I mean, none of them looked happy. So one day I said, I'm going to come around from my desk and I'm going to be like, how are you? So I done it. I started testing my theory. I say, hey, how are you? Yeah, I'm good. I'm okay. And then I go back down and you can see the solemnness. And I went, no, honestly, let me get the lift for you. How are you? And I noticed the difference on the second time.
Yeah.
And they actually would stop, not get in the lift, and actually have a conversation with me about how they feel. And then that built a kind of conversation throughout every day now. When I speak to people, hey, how are you? How are you feeling today? So it would go on from there. And that's how it kind of started for me when I started speaking to people, knowing that and apparently when you ask them 3 times, it can actually get quite sentimental.
I've never tried the third time.
Try it again.
The mythical third, are you okay? Do you know what? I might try that.
Because apparently this is a really rare thing and it's got nothing to do with what we're talking about, but apparently certain cultures will offer you food 3 times, right? So you'll be like, the first time, would you like some food? No, I'm okay. And then they'll wait. And then they say, would you like some food again? And then you'll be like, no, I'm okay. And then they'll wait. And then they'll offer you again. And a majority of the time, on the 3rd time, we actually take it.
You will not believe this. Yesterday, my neighbor, I just got back from work, and my neighbor, he'd been barbecuing. He was celebrating Eid, and he came past, and I said, oh, your food smells amazing. You're having a nice meal and all that. And he was like, yeah. He said, do you want some? I said, no. Honestly, we're just about to have dinner. And he went, No, you can have some. You can have some. It's fresh. I've just made it. It's beautiful. I said, honestly, I don't want, you're about to take it up to your family. You're about to have a lovely family meal. Third time, what did I say?
Yes.
I said yes. And I had some lovely lamb. Yesterday that happened.
My fairy, see? And someone taught me that, see? And I was like, no. And then they were like, yeah. And then they were like, it's true. And then when I thought about it, someone offered me some apples, like a beautiful Filipino family just like a couple doors down. They were offering me apples. And no, I'm okay. Then again, no, I'm okay. I went home on the third time with this big bag of apples. And I was like, I'm going to eat you.
And you treasured those.
I enjoyed it so much, but yeah. That's a whole nother subject. But yeah, I treasure those. So I've got a couple more for you.
Yeah.
This one is, what has been the best advice you have ever received in your life? And how has it helped you?
The best advice. So it was on my first day in radio, working in an actual radio station. I was told that radio is theatre of the mind.
Yes.
Now, that's not exactly a piece of advice, but I took it as advice. So if you've ever heard any radio that I've made or been a part of, radio to me is not just someone giving you a weather update or in between two songs or having a chat or telling you about the travel news. Those things have to happen. But if you've ever heard, there's been times where soundscapes, right? Yeah. Making a piece of audio that you can fully immerse yourself in.
Yeah.
And I don't think there is anything more, I don't think there's anything better, anything more incredible. You could watch the best film in the world, right?
Yeah.
But you're seeing it all, you're being given it. If I create a piece of audio and I tell you, I leave things to the imagination, you'll hear a little sound in the background. It could be like, I don't know, hypothetically, it's it's sort of like a nightscape, and you can hear sort of like a rustling in the trees, and you can hear footsteps and whatever. In your head, you're making up what's there. It's like in horror films. The worst bit of a horror film is when they show you the monster.
Oh.
Because it's always worse in your own head.
That's true.
You'll always go, oh, it's actually not that scary. The one in my head, terrifying. Honestly, I've been quaking in my boots. Now I'm like, oh right, yeah, it's a CGI monster with 80,000 teeth. Sure. That's the thing about radio for me. And
sorry, I just thought of it as well.
See what I mean? Hanging. So that was not given to me as a piece of advice, but I've taken it on. And like when I'm making radio, I want you to be picturing it in your head, because I can give you the sort of backdrop, but your thoughts, your brain, your experiences. Sorry, you're absolutely cracking up here.
It's not stopping.
Are you still picturing that monster?
I am. Do you know what? Do you know what monster I'm thinking of? You're gonna crack up.
Which one?
Have you seen Monsters Inc? You know when they go through the doors and they go rah. And the little girl's like
oh. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm after.
I'm actually crying right now.
I'm gonna have to have some water.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Oh wow.
Oh, that was good.
That's good. But yeah, there you go. That was a tangent.
A good one. So a good one. Okay, so when was the last time you have felt totally at peace with yourself?
Oh, wow. Wow. What a question. Last time I felt totally at peace. So you get to a point, I think, in your professional life where you realize that there are only certain things you can control.
True.
And when you get to a point of when you realize those things and you realize you can't have complete control over everything, there is a sense of sort of inner peace to that. And I think the first time that I realized I was good at my job, and that I realized I could make a career out of this, was very important. And when there's times where I don't have, where I don't feel good at my job and I don't feel sort of in a peace or anything like that, I always try and think back to that moment that I was like, you've done this, like you've made this thing, like I've been able to sort of shape a presenter, the way that they delivered something and made it better. I wrote a funny joke, whatever it is. I would try and think back to that moment and always have them at the top of my mind, because not every day is a good day.
I call it character building day.
Character building day, exactly, like you had today. Some days are going to be character building days, and some days there are going to be people who feel like their only job that day is to get in your way.
Oh yeah.
And some days you just have to go, that's where they're going to be, that's their job for today. You got to just let them do it. And I think I'm getting better as a person at letting that wash over me and not letting it affect me.
I would love to take a photo of you at that moment, though. I don't know what it is. I just would love to be in a room and just me silently there in a corner somewhere with my camera.
Yeah.
And while that person is trying their best to terrify your day, like you did with me and Monster Zinc. I would just love to see how you deal with it.
Do you know what I do? I close my eyes and I just go, don't worry about it. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And if someone's coming at me with that energy, I just go, all right. I can't change that. I can't affect it. So I can't let it affect my day. You just sometimes just got to get on with it. Like, I've got my whiteboard of things that I need to tick off for today.
Yeah.
No matter what energy you're trying to bring, I've got to tick that off, mate. So if you're making a brick wall in front of me, I'm going to have to climb over it.
Yep. Or
I might
kick it down.
Around this, or I'm going to put my Timberlands on and I'm going to kick them down.
Exactly. See, that's what I'm talking about. See?
Yeah.
If you could give a message to anybody today listening to this podcast, what message would you give them about being positive and going for your dreams? Because I believe throughout this whole podcast, it's been epic. But what would you say to people about going for your dreams and never giving up on what you want to do? What inspirational words would you give them?
So as I say, a few years ago, I was working for free. I was cleaning toilets in the evening and I was pursuing my dreams. And not everyone will have those hardships. Not everyone will have sort of something spurring them on, like what happened with my dad. That doesn't mean that your dreams are any less worthwhile or any less sort of like aspirational. I think everybody can achieve what they want if they put their mind to it. And I know that sounds simple, but I have had so many walls put in front of me, whether it's walls that I've put there myself from my own mental health issues, whether it's a self-esteem thing, whatever it is, socioeconomic things. So, I mean, like I said before, I'm from a little town up north. London is where I can do this job the best. It's where I have the best chance of making it. I didn't have money to come rent a flat in London or whatever. Yeah. I had to get by staying on my friends' sofas, by borrowing money from my family to rent a place a month at a time. I was hustling, right? And I didn't think I was strong enough to do that. I didn't even realize I was doing it at the time. I was just so focused on getting to the point where I was like, I want to make my dad proud. I want to make myself proud. So it was only after that, I think I'm already backing out of this sentence as I'm saying it, but not that I've reached the top of the mountain, right? Hypothetically, though, in this analogy, I was climbing the mountain, and then when I got to look back at the journey, I was like, "Oh my God, you've just climbed a mountain." Mm-hmm. But the thing is, you can only take each day at a time.
Yes, I agree.
You can only attack what's in front of you on that day. So I think taking things day by day, and never. If you're aiming for perfection, you'll be ignoring the greatness that you've achieved.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you're trying to get perfection every single time, you're not going to, and you'll be looking at what you've done and not thinking it's any good.
Yeah.
You won't be seeing the wood for the trees. There's a lot of different analogies that you could use, but basically, persevere. Because what's the worst that's going to happen? I said to myself when I wanted to do radio and I was sat in that supermarket office, I was like, if I don't make it, right, I'll at least had a really good time
trying
it. Mm-hmm. And at least I won't look back in 10, 20 years and go, do you know, I really wish I'd done that hospital radio course, or I wish I'd gone back to college or whatever. I wish I'd had a go at radio. And that applies to anything. There's on my whiteboard, there's a few things that I want to achieve in the next year. And if it takes me a year to do those, then fine. If it takes me 2, at least I'm gonna give them a good go.
Exactly.
I might not be good at them. I might not achieve it, but hey, as long as I've done it and attempted it, then I can be proud of myself for that. Because a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't have the strength to give it a go and potentially fail.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I agree with that. You know what? That's a really good way of saying things. I have one more for you, Travis.
Hit me.
Okay, I'm not going to hit you physically. Come on, man. I'd hug you.
I feel like you really come across. You've got so much knowledge and you've got so much positive energy that I'm like, hit me, give me this positive energy.
No, you can have it. No, we're friends now, so it's different now. We're good. I love this. So, finally, for everybody who's listening, and if anybody would like to get in contact with yourself, get to know who you are, your journey of what you've been through, because you've blessed me with so much knowledge about you, where can they find you on all your social media platforms, and just in generally anywhere, where can people find you?
What I would say is hit me up, Travis Glossop, Travis Glossop on Instagram, Twitter, wherever. There's radio. If you're listening to this and you're going, I want to get into radio, I don't know how. Maybe you're up in Scotland and you're thinking London is a weird concept. Radio, they only make radio down there. And if you just don't have any idea, I got to where I am from making friends in this industry and making sure that I never said no to anything. I always say yes to things because you never know what can happen.
That is the truth.
You just never know. If you say no, there's always going to be someone behind you who will say yes. And next time, they're going to get asked and not me. So I always say yes to things. And I wouldn't have got anywhere if it wasn't for the kindness of my friends and people in this industry who gave me a word of advice here, a little leg up here. And I can only be happy in my job if I am also giving that to somebody else. So honestly, if you reach out to me, drop me a DM, send me a message on Instagram, whatever, however you want to get in contact. If you've got any questions or anything, I am more than happy to answer. And if I can help in any way, please do hit me up. Or if you just want to laugh at my stupid tweets, that's fine as well.
Travis, this is where I am so humbled to have you on the show, and I want to say thank you so much for your compassion, your kindness, your honesty, and telling us your story, your way, with no filter. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. There's a lot of things on this podcast I've never said out loud. So thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Your questions were amazing. And it was an absolute honor to be asked to do this because I've had such a wonderful time.
Thank you so much. And guys, thank you so much for listening to the As People podcast. Please remember you can subscribe to Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and any other platform that you prefer listening to. Please also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can also donate to the As People podcast by simply going to the Savvy Rocks website or just typing in www.paypal.me/Us People podcast. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Stay happy, stay positive, and as always, please continue to be kind to one another.
Bang, we're there. Savvy, you should be so proud. That was such a great interview.
Thank you, hon.
How many questions did we get through?
Oh. Do you know what?
About 4. Well, listen, that's my fault. Sometimes I go off on tangents.
No, I love it. Do you know what?
Feel free to edit out anything you need there. I'm
what?
always.
I'm gonna authentically leave it as it is because it's an hour, and usually I have a podcast for about an hour. So
you can tell I'm a producer because there was bits where instead of going, I was just silent, and I was.
Yeah.
Is it? About. I'm always thinking of the editor. Always.